Pretty much anything a lot faster.
Where'd Grayson go?
No, I go to five.
Yeah. Where's Grayson? Is he here?
He's here.
Tell him, we'll need him to come up, yeah, have him come up.
Because they start to.
You need to have.
The waitress is.
Yeah.
We're going to get started. Welcome to Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee.
Thank you.
So today we're going to have two work sessions. And we have the two bills on our agenda. And if we could take a moment and just introduce ourselves, Representative McIntyre.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the last time, right?
Well, there's lunch. There's going to be lunch next week.
Well, good afternoon to all my colleagues. Matthew McIntyre, House District 18, representing the fine people of Lowell, Burlington, Greenbush, Passtumpket, Clifton, Amherst, Aurora, Osborne, Great Pond, Dedham, Eastbrook, Mariahville, Otis, Bennington, Deloitte, Cherryfield, and 32 unorganized territories along the way.
Good afternoon, Representative Chad Perkins, District 31.
Good afternoon. My name is Mana Abdi and I represent part of Lewiston.
I'm Scott Searway and I represent Senate District 16, which is Waterville, Winslow, Fairfield, Oakland, and Albion.
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Bob Nutting. I represent the towns of Oakland, Smithfield, Mercer, Starks, and a portion of Sydney.
Representative Tavis Rock Hassenfuss, House District 57, Reedfield and Winthrop.
Representative Ardell.
Donnie Ardell, I represent House District 6.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike LaJoy. I represent District 96, which is part of Lewiston.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nina Milliken, House District 16, Blue Hill, Brooksville, Castine, Sedgwick, Surrey, and Trenton.
Good afternoon. I'm Senator Penny, BB Center, and I represent all of Knox County except for Idaho and the town of Washington. So, Will, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Will Tu, and I'm the legislative analyst for the committee.
So, Will, I'm going to ask you to start with LD 2235 and give us a summary of where we are, what the discussions are, and what we need to do next.
Absolutely. So for members, we had a little bit of a late night last Wednesday. Membership started thinning out. So just to recap on this bill, we originally had LD 719 in the first regular session about increasing county jail funding. So as part of that resolve, we obviously recently passed a committee bill increasing county jail funding, which was a committee bill. That was a two-parter requested by the committee. So one was the funding component and two was looking at future operations for county jail operations, whether that was incentivizing regionalization, whether that was moving back to a system of some element of state control over county jails. Where we landed last Wednesday is Representative Hassenfuss had communicated to the committee that there was an intention to withdraw the bill as we were getting closer to the end of session. And it's quite a large topic, I think, as the Representative Hassenfuss had indicated to the community, or sorry, to the committee. So we could not withdraw that as it is a committee bill. So that needs to be a decision of the committee. So that's why that is back up for discussion today. We obviously didn't have a public hearing on this, given the late nature of the bill. So that is the committee's decision today, if they agree whether to just ought not to pass this, given the amount of time remaining, or if they'd like to see something come out of this bill.
Do we have permission to continue on with the committee to do work on this?
Yes, we were granted permission today to talk about it, so.
To talk today about it?
Yeah.
But were we granted permission to have another meeting to discuss it?
A subsequent meeting, if you're
through?
speaking about tabling, no, we would have to request permission again if we were to meet on this bill.
Okay.
So ideally, something is decided today about what the final disposition of this bill would be.
Okay. Okay. Representative Hassenfuss.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the committee remembers, my comments last time we met were that I think this is an important topic. But my preference is to try to visit it in the off session, work with the stakeholders, to bring back a better developed, more thought through bill for the 133rd for whoever would like to sponsor that. And, I'm hoping that, committee members would, have those conversations, see if we can put some sort of bill together to sort of maximize those efficiencies. I believe that through that conversations and some offline conversations, everybody was okay with simple ought not to pass vote, which is why there was no public hearing scheduled for this. And, that we're all going with the understanding that this is a pretty hefty topic, and perhaps the best path is to, take what was developed in that report and work for a bill in the 133rd. And I think everybody is supportive of that because I haven't heard otherwise from anybody.
Representative Perkins?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion on to pass.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
I'll just
Representative,
say that I hope that we have a good, productive conversation in the 133rd on this issue, because I think it's important.
Representative Hassenfuss?
And I do think that there are some members who are part of that report back who would like to continue this conversation. So I think if the committee could just urge that, knowing that hopefully we'll see a bill next year to see how best to do this.
Any further discussion on this? We have a motion and a second on the table. We ready to vote? All those in favor? Whoops.
Take a vote. Yeah.
LD 2235, the motion is ought not to pass by Representative Perkins and seconded by Representative Hassenfuss. Representative Hassenfuss.
Yes, on not to pass.
Representative Hassenfuss says yes. Representative Nutting.
Yes.
Representative Nutting says yes. Senator Searway.
Yes.
Senator Searway says yes. Representative Fluckner is trying to get in on Zoom, but isn't yet. So he's absent. Representative Abdi.
Yes.
Representative Abdi says yes. Representative Perkins.
Aye.
Representative Perkins says aye. Representative McIntyre.
Yes.
Representative McIntyre says yes. Representative Vardell.
Yes.
Representative Vardell says yes. Representative Bunker is absent. Representative LaJoy.
Yes.
Representative LaJoy says yes. Representative Milliken.
Yes.
Representative Milliken says yes. Senator Curry is absent. Senator Beebe Center.
Yes.
Senator Beebe Center says yes. So we have 3 absent and 10 in favor of the motion ought not to pass.
Okay. So could we move to the next bill?
Yes.
LD 2165?
Yes. So we have LD 2165, an act to change supervisory authority over the Capitol Police. This was voted last week, so to open up discussion again on this bill, we would need a motion for reconsideration. Anybody would like to make that motion? I think it was Representative Hassenfuss that indicated that he wanted to, but I know he just left the room, so.
Can we take 5?
Take
a break.
5.
Yeah.
Caucus?
Yes.
Okay. There are a couple people here who were going to, excuse me, who were going to sort of fill in and explain this bill in terms of what they think it would look like and how they wanted to work it. You're one of them. Is there someone else here also to discuss Capitol Police and State Police? No, just you? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
I see it.
2165. Representative Milliken,
Bernie's supposed to have that.
I don't.
are we back on? We're not back on.
Yeah, I have to move you. It's just a matter. I have to listen about how this goes. Okay. I also. You are. I'm sure in this next.
Are we good? We're good?
I didn't want to. I was ready.
Okay, Representative Lookner's here. Representative Milliken,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion to go back into work session on LD 2165.
do I have a second?
Second motion.
Any discussion?
You want to have him introduce himself, yes.
Yes.
when you do.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, so we're going back. Representative Lookner, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Grayson Lookner, House District 113, part of Portland.
Thank you. Okay. So, Will, would you like to give us an idea of where we are?
Sure. So just a
Sure.
brief recap from when we held a work session on this last week. The majority report was ought not to pass on the bill. We had a minority report from Representative Hassenfuss, joined by Representative Bunker. It's more of an open concept amendment or a little bit of a creative writing assignment, but it was the general feel of it was to give the commissioner authority to have a Maine State Police lieutenant as a supervisory authority over Capitol Police, and then allow that lieutenant to fill roles with state police officers. So it would generally be striking more of the prescriptive language in terms of whether this was going to be through attrition or how the process worked out, and just removing any barriers that statutes had in place preventing this from happening, and really, I think, leaving it up more to the administration in terms of figuring out how this was going to proceed. So that was the motion that we had on the floor and that was voted on. And if the committee looks for any other information from interested parties, I think now would be the appropriate time.
Representative Hassenfuss?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm still comfortable with my amendment that Will just articulated. And I know I spoke with Representative Milliken that evening and wanted to offer her the chance to join that report. But this is a work session now, we're back in work session. So if there are further questions that committee members have, can certainly feel free.
Sir, would you like to come up? Yes. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I just want to share, I had a very different conversation in terms of learning what was actually involved with this with Rebecca Graham. And I just wanted the opportunity to have that full of an explanation again, how it actually would work with the state police and the Capitol Police and what the expectations were, as well as what the responsibilities would be. And it wouldn't be a matter of just taking over and putting aside. And so I asked him to come and be able to hopefully give us sort of the larger picture, if that would be okay.
Certainly. And so my point of view will be from the state police
Yeah.
being given this assignment. My name's Tyler Stevenson, by the way. I work for the state police and it's a pleasure to be here. So if this was to happen, Then the colonel who's sitting behind me,
Yep.
which more than happy to speak to you if you would like, would direct me to assign a lieutenant to oversee the operations of the Capitol Police. That is the first step, getting the de facto chief back in there to provide them supervision, a direct link to the rest of the command staff. It's kind of a wide open playbook where we go from there. Pulling them onto the state police's reporting systems, giving access to our body cameras, kind of solidifying all the information into one place would be a big first step. And other than that, providing the supervision that they require now, and the accountability that is required, we're going to continue to just let them do their jobs. Obviously, if we're doing risk assessments on planned events there, then we'll be pulling in, the lieutenant will be able to pull directly in other state police resources. If there's a big incident that occurs here, obviously we'll pull them in and kind of operate as normal. The idea was if a officer retired, say at the end of the year, and needed to be replaced, we would work to replace that person with a trooper. Kind of the solidifying the command of the state police and going through that process. No one being told that they have to leave, continue to work as normal, and we'll replace them as through the attrition, like Will said. The biggest benefit, so I'm biased to the state police. We would love to absorb another unit. It is a force multiplier for us. We have EPU, which is a standalone unit. If I'm able, which I oversee, if I'm able to eventually, I know this is a long game, blend that together to one unit, I'm going to have better operational capacity. And I think we'll be a more effective unit when it comes to security. Both for the governor and for the state house. And so that is the plan. It is not this is going to be done in 6 months. It may be, like the commissioner said, it may be 20 years before it kind of finally comes to fruition, and it's all state police over here. But that was our plan.
Are there questions? One of the fears that I've been hearing is that basically the Capitol Police would become part of the state police and everyone would get assigned wherever they needed to be assigned, as opposed to a dedicated group here for Capitol safety.
So I could see where that could be a fear if we have officers here with statewide jurisdiction and there was something going on in another part of the state. Then all of a sudden the state house is going to be abandoned and there's not going to be anyone here. I can assure you that we do this all the time with troops. One thing that I've instructed the lieutenant, just so you all know, I have a lieutenant managing Capitol Police right now. We've just done that in the interim.
Okay.
You set minimum staffing levels for what you need to maintain an adequate level of security, and you do not go below that. So if we need troopers for, there's a mass casualty incident or some, another Lewiston, and we're sending everyone, we have minimum staffing levels here. It will not go below those minimum staffing levels. If we're in fear of that, then we're able to call in. And I think another good idea, a good benefit of us doing that is our ability to absorb those things. If today 3 Capitol Police officers resigned today, that department would be in trouble. If we are managing it and we have 3 Capitol Police officers resign today, we can pull in temporarily staff to fill that until we're able to hire for those positions. Just have that ability to absorb. It's just the way it is with a bigger department. Absorb those losses.
Okay. Are there questions, concerns? Yes. Representative LaJoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In that same scenario you just spoke about, would you be hiring an individual that would go through the whole academy, or an individual that may have prior experience to come in?
To fill a vacancy at the Capitol?
Yeah,
Is that your question, sir? So if there's a vacancy at the Capitol and we are going to fill that, there's a couple options. Chances are we would open it for a transfer to allow people to come in. The colonel has a lot of discretion on manager rights, but say there was a Capitol police officer today that wanted to say, I want to become a trooper and I want to work at the Capitol, back at the Capitol. With the skills and knowledge and experience that they already have here, yes, they're going to have to go through the training and go through a field training portion. But I can tell you, it wouldn't make sense for us not to put the person back here because they already have all that experience. That would be a waste of a resource. But if you didn't have that scenario, it would go out for a transfer, and troopers, current troopers would be interested, would put in for that position. And then with the hole that they fill in the troop, we put a new trooper in there to fill that hole. That would be a hire out of the academy into that hole in the troop. Likely that's what would happen.
Yes, Senator Searway?
I think Matt probably had first dibs could be then. Did you want to speak?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just was gonna be on the list, that's all.
Representative McIntyre?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we have a printed copy of the currently proposed amendment language?
Yes,
That could be
there's-
distributed to all members.
Oh, from Representative Hasenfuss, his amendment?
Mhm.
No, there's not a copy of that amendment yet.
Okay, then I have just one clarifying question for myself here as I sit here and try to process all this. Can somebody in this room please tell me what the underlying problem is that promulgated this proposal? I still do not have a clear picture of the underlying problem that brought this bill before us.
With Commissioner?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mike Sostruck. I'm the Commissioner for the Department of Public Safety. Appreciate the question. For me, as the individual that ultimately made the decision to make that move, as I've explained in front of the committee, when Chief Clancy was put on admin leave in early August, I had an opportunity to meet with a bunch of the Capitol Police employees. That's sworn, that's supervisors, and there's our officers. And having that conversation, I heard a lot about their professionalism, their passion. They care about the mission. They care about this legislative body. They care about this complex. They were concerned about resources, and we have requested resources on Capitol Police's behalf in the past to include additional bodies to staff the cross screening station, additional bodies for the complex in general, bodies to cover the cultural building and that expansion over there. And we've gotten about half of those bodies that have come through. So we truly appreciate that allocation. But from my perspective, I have concerns about resource allocation and to give them the resources that they need in order to do the job. Numbers that I've discussed with this group in the past is 180% increase in threats. And they have what they have. There's a total of 16. There's one detective. And for us, in order to immediately access resources that may be available at the state police, I thought that it made more sense to consolidate those two units. So if we have resource allocation, we have operational efficiencies, and then we have crisis response. Those are the three primary headers that I think we can do a better job at with a larger unit and plugging the Capitol Police in with the Maine State Police. And when we talk about operational efficiency, which is a conversation that we've had before, the scenario there for me is if you have two separate and distinct units, which we have now, and they use mutual aid, they assist each other back and forth, depending on what those scenarios are. From my perspective, I will just simply say that if you have one chain of command versus two, you're going to operate more efficiently with one, clearly. And the same thing with radio structures, policies, equipment, training, and the list goes on and on and on. And so we can do a better job of providing service. And with the vacancy in that chief position, I thought this was absolutely the right time to start making that transition, to morph one organization, those two separates, into one overarching Capitol Police troop, which is ultimately what it would be down the road. We've got amazing people over there. I'm proud of the work that they do. And I'm looking to the future in a better way to provide service for all of you on behalf of the Department of Public Safety.
Follow-up question?
Dialogue, right? We can-
Dialogue.
So the challenge that, you know, the domain that I come from.
Sure.
Okay, and not a lot of people are fully aware of the organizational structure of my former agency. But I'm trying to draw a lot of parallels and work through, let's just say, conflicting information in terms of what is being presented to us here, in terms of who wants this and who doesn't. Okay.
Okay.
So just cards on the table. Because there's a lot of, what did I hear recently? Hallway democracy occurring, okay, of which I've been within earshot of. So hearkening back to the former organizational structure, which I think worked pretty well. We had basically 3 entities that performed the security services in various perimeters around the protectee, whether it be a human protectee or a physical protectee, you know, the White House 18 acres. And each of those played an integral role. Technical security division, my favorite. You know, I was the geek with the gun, looking for bombs, getting rid of them, looking for chemicals, getting rid of them, looking for things that shouldn't be in the room with us and getting rid of them. Then there was the special agent task force, and I won't be disparaging of the nicknames that we held for them, but they were the guys that wore suits and pretty sunglasses, and they're the ones that everybody sees on TV. But the third critical element that I draw the parallel to the Capitol Police was the uniform division of the United States Secret Service. And within that, faced through various training pipelines, even within that organization, they had specialized functions, grounds canine, perimeter bikes, counter sniper, all the things that were needed for that function. They all fell under one overarching authority, OPO, which is how I view DPS, Office of Protective Operations. And so if there were opportunities to improve efficiencies, which you know I always focus on, improve communications, standardize radio comms, that all fell under what is your authority as the commissioner of DPS, because Capitol and state police and all and other entities all fall within under your purview. And there were sometimes culture wars, class, you know, caste structure, like, oh, you know, they're closer to the president, so they're more important. When in fact, it's not, it's a team effort. And so my struggle is understand from the culture that I came from, if there were policy differences, OPO, Office of Protective Operations, smoothed them out. So you could smooth out policy differences that might exist between Capitol and state and other, the thin blue line, if you will. And I know the position you're in. It's not an easy one, because there's all those little subcultures and groups that you have to try to keep focused on the primary mission. And so basically, I'm still trying to deconflict information that I've received from previous sources, but I think this is being rushed. It feels to me like this is being rushed. And I think perhaps a more artful or elegant proposal that I've heard that term used is hire a chief. You know, I know there's been some history with the past before I got here. I get that, you know, that can be improved upon perhaps by a more robust screening process. You got to find the right person. You got to find the right leader. I get that. But that would be something that I would be more supportive of is just finding a new chief. And if operational communications, resource connectivity is as rightfully a focus as I think I'm hearing you say, embed one MSP representative to act as that liaison for quick resource dispatch or emergency comms. and then smooth out the policy differences that may exist from your role. I know it's not a light challenge that I'm tossing on your plate, but I just think it can be done. And I think that's what I would be more supportive of. And I forgive for hijacking the mic, but those are my thoughts. You're welcome to respond to any of them, clearly. I thought I would offer that.
I'm happy to respond. That's entirely up to you.
I think if you responded, that would be good.
Okay, great. No problem with that at all. I do think that there are different ways to accomplish that mission. And if the thought process is that we're going to have the Maine State Police pick up the liability, the responsibility, and the duties of supervising, as an example, a full service law enforcement agency, then they should have the ability to incorporate their own policies and procedures and everything else that goes into play with that. I think from a leadership perspective, that makes perfect sense. I have a highly run organization with a great command staff that I'm very confident, based on everything they do day in and day out, that we can, in fact, accomplish this transition in a smooth and professional manner that's going to better suit everyone. We're going to put us in a better position to accomplish the mission. At the end of the day, small groups and all these other things, my goal is to accomplish the mission. We make as many people happy along the way as possible, but I'm also not going to make everybody happy business. Accomplish the mission is my primary goal. So when I look at these various options, to me, that is the best way to do that. If I hire a new police chief, then what's going to happen is that, to me, these same issues are going to get kicked down the road. I have an opportunity to fix this right now and do that with existing resources that are currently in play. From a command staff perspective, we can immediately plug and play some of these other tools. So we have 2 different records management systems. We have 2 different dispatch systems. I can lean on MSP to make those transitions. They do it every day. Those resources are already in their toolbox. So to be able to switch that over, I can automatically have them make those changes on behalf of me as the commissioner of the Department of Public Safety. And that is the intent that I have in mind. That's where this transition plan came from my perspective. If I hire another police chief, then what would happen is that, what am I going to ask that individual police chief to work with the Maine State Police to replicate many of their things? That we're still going to have 2 different sets of chain of command, which is always going to be a problem from my perspective. If we could smooth that out, then we should smooth it out, and we should do it now. If Chief Clancy was still here and we didn't have a problem, then I could work with him or anybody else that's in that role to try to make some of these transitions. But I think because that happened, it's real. That this is an opportunity to use change management to try to make these changes. I think that, just so everybody hears this and I'm abundantly clear, I do think that we have individuals at the Capitol Police Department that love the leadership concept of having the Maine State Police in play, but they're not happy with the attrition side of that. I understand that piece of it. I have people that spoke with me in those one-on-ones that said they in favor of that leadership concept and not happy about attrition, is what I've heard since then. And that should be said out loud, that they don't believe in that attrition piece, even though the system, the concept that I have in mind, their jobs don't change in my mind. They don't lose their jobs. I'm respecting their positions and their skill set by leaving them exactly where they're at and trying to flesh out the rest of this system in order to better support them and ultimately support all of you. I have other people that talk to me one-on-one that think this is a good idea. And keep in mind that that's not just MSLEA members. We have civilian members, we have other unions, we have all these other folks that are in play. I have retirees that called me when this thing hit. So there's a lot of interest in how does this happen? And I understand that there's not going to be 100%. Probably won't be a 100% vote here. There's not going to be a 100% agreement with the people that work for me. And I wish I had 100%, but that's not reality. As a leader, I've got to make decisions based on the resources that I have in front of me. and make those decisions. And that's the decision that I make, and that's the decision I still support. It remains to be seen what else happens with that. And I'm happy to sit in front of my people and have that conversation again. I explained it to them on the front end to say through attrition, and this is why. Some folks are not going to agree with that. And again, I'm okay with that. I'm going to sleep okay, knowing that I'm trying to do the best I can for the Department of Public Safety and Capitol Police. And I don't think it's appropriate. I do not think it's appropriate to give the Maine State Police the liability, the responsibility, and all that extra work without giving them the opportunity to set themselves up for long-term success, which is that opportunity to talk about training and records management systems and dispatch systems and all those other things. They should have that opportunity to make those changes and incorporate that whole unit into them. I don't know that we solve all the world's problems with putting a liaison over there one way or the other, because when the bad thing happens, which could happen anytime, as you know and have lived, one person's not going to get that liaison work done. If we have one organization that lives and breathes that every day, you're in a much better spot to accomplish the mission at the end of the day, from my perspective.
Follow up?
No, thank you.
Any, Senator Searway?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, when I was a DARE officer, I was also doing patrol. So I was doing both. And that's what I'm in fear of happening here for a trooper, because I think it's going to cause more stress because he's trying to he gets in a serious situation as a patrol trooper. And then he has this big report he's got to get done. And then he gets signed here. Or he gets pulled out for here and goes and deals with that. Then he comes back. He's still got to do that report. He's still got to go and visit these people. All these things are happening in his head. And it's putting stress on him because he has to get that done. And I think that's something that's missing here. Right now, I think your lieutenant probably does more than just right here. Is that true?
I'll tell you the reality there, Senator, is that because of the circumstance that we're in, we pulled a lieutenant because we needed somebody to fill that position.
Right.
Because there's a void. And there's still going to be a void here until we fill this and make this decision and we're able to move on.
Right.
So there is a lieutenant that has a full-time job that we've now given a second full-time job. If in fact this process goes into place, then that chief's position would be reclassed into a Maine State Trooper lieutenant.
Right.
That lieutenant is full-time at the Capitol Police. Troopers that are assigned to the Capitol Police would be full-time assigned to that unit. There will be no confusion about what that looks like. As Major Stevenson just said, if stuff goes sideways, we got the big bad thing happening, fill in the blank, and they're pulling people from all over the place, they are not going to go below a minimum staffing level for the Capitol Police. All of a sudden, the kiosk downstairs is not going to be open because we pulled a trooper out to go do anything else. That's not the way this is going to work. Now, if they work an overtime job and they're working a minimum shift someplace, and they're working patrol and they take a report, that's no different than the scenario that you're talking about. These troopers would be here full-time as part of the Capitol Police troop. And I use that, we'll determine what names are and all that other stuff down the road, but they are full-time assigned here for that function, for you. There should be no confusion about what they're going to do day in and day out.
So that said, I wonder why they haven't done that with dispatch, or they haven't done it with the fire marshal's office when they're short-staffed, or MDEA, or whatever. So I think that there's other agencies that are in this scenario here sometimes. I know dispatch was very short-handed at one point, and it should have probably done the same thing with what you're talking about. But I'm saying that we're trying to get in something that really, to me, has not demonstrated a lot of issues other than management. And I think if they had picked the right man, all these issues that you're talking about that could have been taken care of could have. I think that all they had to do is just align what needed to be done in a scenario. And I think that this is where I think, when you're thinking about all these positions going to have cruisers, it's going to be very expensive in the long run, so maybe not right now, but as it builds up, it will be very expensive. So I'm just wondering why, and if it means having a lieutenant that's assigned to this spot and can get all that done of connecting the dots, I don't know why you need to have all that staff that can't be doing that stuff. And I think that this staff right now is doing security. And I think that security covers, a general amount of things, but maybe there's some other little things that you feel that should be covered. That should be handled by the chief or the lieutenant that's in charge and say, we can get this covered. And that's what I'm wondering. Why is it necessary to put troopers with cruisers when they can be doing the job on the roads that you need? And take them away from that and put them in these positions in security. It doesn't make sense to me.
Let me start by saying that it's a great example to use the dispatch scenario, because that's what we did.
For a short period of time.
They were there periodically. There's still fire marshals, as an example, pulling shifts in dispatch, primarily in the Augusta Center now. So as needed, we have done just that. I would say that I think the Capitol Police Department have fought incredibly hard not to be thought of as a security company, because they're not. It's a full service law enforcement agency that provides the same service as your home communities or a county sheriff. They have a different beat. They have a different neighborhood. They have different constituencies or clients that they serve, but it's a full service law enforcement agency. And that's why they're here. That's why they exist. Back in the day, it was a security company, right? They were doing security for the Capitol. In 2026, that is entirely unacceptable to protect all of you and to protect other employees and visitors here to the State House complex, which is why it's a law enforcement agency. So to provide as much training and as high speed as an elite unit as we can, I'm trying to do that for you. It's just like I would try to do with everybody else. And they have great people here. I don't know, I've said it 100 times probably over the 3 work sessions in the public hearing. We got really good people at Capitol Police. I think we can provide additional resources, additional tools, and do even better with additional training that the Maine State Police will ultimately provide to their people.
Representative Hasselfus?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As I'm sure everybody is familiar with, my report was basically taking, section 1 from the bill, section 1 from the proposed amendment from the police union and also from the amendment for Commissioner Sawchuk. And my question, Commissioner, is with that, the proposal that I made was essentially you have the authority under statute to have a lieutenant from the state police, or if you choose, to go out and hire a new chief of Capitol Police and keep the structure the same. Is there any need to add anything to that amendment?
I don't believe so. I think that is a baseline. We came into this, as I've explained, trying to keep this as basic and as simple as possible. We added additional things just to check boxes and make people more comfortable that this is what we're going to do moving forward. I don't need the bill to say that I'm going to replace those officers through attrition. I've told everybody that I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that, whether it's in writing or not.
Yeah. Well,
that's the intent.
Yeah.
And I can do that with the authority that would be granted in the minority report as discussed at the last meeting.
Yeah. And if you did move forward with that path, you would have to come back in front of the legislature anytime there's a reclass or there's a new hire, and we would have to approve that as well, right?
Yes, because what would happen here again is this chief position would be reclassed for an MSP lieutenant. An existing lieutenant position that's currently at Capitol Police would be reclassed as an MSP sergeant down the road. I hope Lieutenant Trahan's around 20 years. But if that happens, then that would be reclassed into a sergeant. As these officers leave for whatever reason, through attrition, we'd reclass those positions into troopers. And you've already heard that. You're certainly going to hear it from the floor. I think we're probably 9 work sessions deep into the budget and the 3 committees that we serve. Every one of those reclasses has got to come back to you and say, this is we're reclassing to the thing. And do you agree with that or not? We would submit the reclass, and HR would ultimately make all of those decisions. That's not ultimately up to us. And they generally bring them forward and say, these have been approved. And then it would be up to you to deal with what occurs after that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Will, and so I'd like to make another motion that is essentially the same motion that I had before, which incorporates, paragraph 1 from the bill language, paragraph 1 from both of the amendments proposed, but also adds the or there where it can be a lieutenant or a chief. And if I understand correctly, that you also believe that statutorily that is enough as well, correct?
Okay.
The only question I would have on that, is kind of related. So section 3, we didn't really talk about that too much, and I kind of view it as a smaller portion of the bill. That was relating to currently it's the Commissioner of Public Safety is authorized and empowered to take certain actions regarding security at Capitol area. So would you still want that included? Because that just also changes it to Commissioner's designee. So I figured you'd probably be okay with that in the amendment as well.
Yeah, I would think the commissioner already has the authority to do that under current law.
I mean, technically, it depends on some, like, I'm thinking of the Department of Corrections statutes. There is technically some provision in there where it says whenever the Commissioner of Corrections is authorized to do something, it's always meant to understood that they can also choose their designee.
And
I don't know if DPS has something similar or how that's generally interpreted, but might as well just put it in statute if you're okay with the Commissioner's designee also.
yes, I'm fine with saying that the commissioner or the commissioner's designee, as long as it follows that chain of command, may hire the chief, the lieutenant, and also may hire, bring in a new officer from anywhere, any other organization to be in the Capitol Police. So however you need to wordsmith that.
Yeah. And I think last time I asked for permission just to work with DPS on anything. Is that still okay?
You can work with
Absolutely.
Okay.
DPS, Capitol Police, whoever you'd like to, union, whoever you'd like to work with on drafting that, you have permission to do that. And so I'd like to make that motion.
Yes.
Second.
Senator,
Just second. It's motion. And a second.
okay, you're seconding it, okay. Is there any further discussion? Yes. Representative
Thank you,
Ardell?
Madam Chair. Just a couple thoughts. I mean, to draw an analogy between U.S. government agencies and our situation here in Maine with the Capitol Police and the state police. The U.S. government has a U.S. Coast Guard, but they also have a U.S. Navy. Now, we could draw parallels between them. We could say they both have, brown water patrol ships or boats. They both have, significant air units. They both have blue water ships. But the reason the Coast Guard is under the Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Navy is under the Department of Defense is because while they may appear similar, with one, the Navy being much larger and having more of a worldwide role, they appear similar, but they have different roles. And I see this amendment. I mean, so in given there is a time where the Coast Guard can be brought under the Navy in a time of war, like in a very specific circumstance. But at that point, when that is done, they return to DHS as a DHS patrol Coast Guard entity. I see this bill, the amendment, as a situation where if the Navy, let's say the Commandant of the Coast Guard had left for whatever reason, and the Navy sort of had decided to place, let's say, a naval captain, in charge of the Coast Guard, with the option of maybe hiring a new commandant or not. What I see the situation with that in the naval captain, who would be, another rank, that was running the Coast Guard is that all that captain would do is take away the urgency of hiring a commandant, promoting a commandant to the Coast Guard so it could be just back the way it was. And for that reason, I oppose the motion, and I think really the most elegant and simple solution to this situation is let's hire a Capitol Police Chief. I am unconvinced of the need to create any changes, large or small. And that's what my vote will be. Thank you.
Commissioner, do you see that sort of challenge?
Well, first and foremost, with all due respect, as a Marine, the Navy Coast Guard thing is throwing me off. Okay, so I mean, you could have gone someplace else, Representative, but you didn't. It's fine. I'm working through it. I'm processing, you know. I do understand. I understand the question. No, I don't see that as a complicating factor here. As I've mentioned before, we are talking on the sworn side of Capitol Police, 16.5 people, right?
Yep.
As far as how complicated this process is, and it's not complicated at all to us. You know, good, bad, or indifferent. I come from a law enforcement agency past where on a Friday night, there may be 30 cops working at the same time.
Yep.
And 21.2 square miles, doing shift stuff. And that's not a heavy lift for us. The reason that we were choosing to do it this way, again, is out of respect for the people that we do currently have working with us. And I think that the Maine State Police are more than qualified to address any logistical administrative hurdles that we need in the long term. And as I was long-winded before, and I apologize, but I still think that's the right answer to make that change.
Okay.
I hear Representative Ardell said he doesn't. I understand that.
Okay.
Because the example he's giving is the temporary fix, and maybe you bring a chief in and then just keep marching on. And I disagree.
Okay.
So I don't think it's complicated. That's where I'm at.
Thank you. Senator Curry?
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I voted for reconsideration because that's where someone wanted to flip their vote. I always like to honor that. If no one else is considering flipping their vote, then I would recommend we move to a vote.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Representative.
Excuse me. For the commissioner, again, excuse me. I know that we've had problems with holding on to chiefs for the security within the building. If I'm not mistaken, is that correct? In other words, the ones that we have had not been here that long. And I also understand that the pay scale is not like outside the state building. And that causes somewhat of a situation in regards as to recruitment. Am I on the right track, or?
There is certainly a piece of that. I would say, and I probably have it written down here, that Chief Garvin was here beyond the national average, I think. I don't know the exact number of years. And Chief Lancy was here 4 years before he ended up leaving. I would say that the hiring process, the applicant pool was pretty slim the last time. And I do think that pay has something to do with that. I don't think there's any question about that.
Just a comment, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I've been in somewhat of a position at times, as the commissioner has, where we had to replace a small group. And after we looked at it, dissected the whole situation, we decided to go forward and do it. And it was at a time when administration was going through changes. And in speaking with administration, as well as the department that we were looking at, we felt that it was the best time to make those changes. Therefore, and as I mentioned previously, at one of our meetings here. I was hoping they'd wait till the new administration, because the new administration may want to go in a certain direction. But the fact of the matter is that the importance of having an extremely good security within the building and surrounding area is paramount. And therefore, to make changes, in my opinion, and what transpired when I went through it, is the very best time to do that. And if we can figure a way to do it fairly smoothly through attrition, which may take a long time, the fact of the matter is, we may be better off with regards to individuals such as myself at this time, being a representative, having something happen in my district.
Okay.
And needing the help. I could call security or the state, and I'd have someone respond to my home, where I don't think that's possible now to have building security or the building police respond to my home at this time. I'm not mistaken.
So thank you. Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Are we ready to vote?
For LD 2165, the motion is sought to pass as amended by Representative Hassenfuss and seconded by Senator Curry. Representative Hassenfuss.
Yes.
Representative Hassenfuss says yes. Representative Nutting.
No.
Representative Nutting says no. Senator Searway.
No.
Senator Searway says no. Representative Lookner.
Yes.
Representative Lookner says yes. Representative Abdi.
Yes.
Representative Abdi says yes. Representative Perkins.
No.
Representative Perkins says no. Representative McIntyre.
No.
Representative McIntyre says no. Representative Vardell.
No.
Representative Vardell says no. Representative Bunker is absent. Representative LaJoy.
Yes.
Representative LaJoy says yes. Representative Milliken.
Yes.
Representative Milliken says yes. Senator Curry.
Yes.
Senator Curry says yes. Senator BB Center.
Yes.
Senator BB Center says yes. We have 7 in favor of the motion, 5 opposed, and 1 absent. And those of you all opposed, or you all ought not to pass?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
I
Thank
have
you.
one more thing that was not on our calendar. It's just a very brief language review.
Yep.
I handed out 2 documents, LD 2223 and LD 2058. 2023 was regarding funding for construction plan reviews for the fire marshal's office. That was already sent out over email. So I'm not looking for affirmation necessarily from the committee. That's just more to put in your records.
Okay.
What I did want to bring, which you have not seen yet, was LD 2058. It's very straightforward. The committee saw the proposed language at the work session from Senator Talbot Ross, the updated version that she worked on with the sheriffs and ACLU. There is a minor change to it. The initial language that she had provided was that unless the persons are detained solely for a civil immigration violation, we just clarified it was a civil violation of federal immigration laws. Shouldn't in effect change anything about the bill, just a small clarification. And that was the only change from the amendment that the committee saw at the work session.
Does everyone see that in the bill? Okay.
Okay.
Yes, Senator Searway?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, on that civil violation, is that, now what's the difference between a civil violation and administrative violation?
I don't know if I could answer that question.
I think that's why we needed to have this, you know, looked into, but had other people look too. But people are just voting for these things and we don't know. That's the problem.
Representative Perkins?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you know when we're gonna have language for 2232?
Remind me on that one.
That's the jail funding.
Yes, I got it the first draft today and sent it back for them. We are figuring out the technicalities of consumer price index and how to phrase that. It's easier said than done than just put it in, but I don't know, we'll see. I would say sometime next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Representative Hassenfuss?
I don't think we need to come back for this, but at some point, we'll probably just compile a list of the remaining bills that we have from criminal justice, convey that information to appropriations, sort of our priority of bills. So probably just do it via email. Each member can list their priorities and we can compile it together and ship it over.
Next Tuesday, we're going to have our committee lunch to honor our analyst and our clerk. And I'm not sure where it's going to be yet, but I'm going to email everyone. Yes?
I'd like to make a motion that our analyst and clerk tell us where they would like to eat. So I can make a lunch reservation for everyone on Tuesday
That would
afternoon.
be great. Where would you guys like
That
to eat?
isn't Taco Bell.
It's gonna be Tuesday afternoon.
Tuesday at noon.
Oh, after session.
After session, well, it's after session. Whoever knows when session ends. Yeah. Representative.
This is official business.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Because of a conflict with my other committee, I may or may not be able to make it Tuesday. So I need to know who the point person is for the authorized by the presiding officers, all that stuff. Who is the point of contact for collection?
your money back anytime.
And put it to a good use, correct? Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, you can officially be the collector.
Is there an alternative time if so that everybody could be there? Because I know there's.
Are all committees supposed to be having the same time?
Well, that doesn't quite work then.
Yeah.
I think that's what the email said.
Yeah.
You're kidding. We're all on two committees.
And if I may be clear, it's not a competing lunch scenario. We actually still have work over there that we have to do.
Right.
We're
Right.
They don't have the UT scheduled till 2:30 next Tuesday.
Committee hearing, correct, and that's where I'm trying to thread the needle, if you will.
On the UT's floor.
You can come for other.
It is, and we're winning. Maybe we should go off mic now.
Okay.
In this case, I make a motion, we adjourn. Oh, in that case, I'll make a motion, we go to El Agave. That's like real Taco Bell. Will wants to talk about El Agaves.
Agave.